Okay, so here we are with our next highlight reel for Vintage Record Auction number 76. This is an auction that closes in April of 2025. If you don't have a printed copy of this catalog, you can get one at 78rpm.com by going to the current auction tab and just downloading the PDF file. You won't get the nice looking cover, but you get all the insides. What you will get is the auction highlights page. You can click on that button and it will lead you through a slideshow of probably 300 or so records. You can look at labels. But in this particular series of videos that we're doing, we're showing you a little bit more than just labels. We're showing you more records for one thing, but we're also giving a little bit of information with them as we go. So we've been through a lot of stuff so far. The 7-inch label section, we've been through the Flexos, we've been through the demo promo section, and a few other little sorted records like picture discs and so forth. Now we're going to launch into a few other small categories. One thing I want to show you from the children's record section is this. This is the Belda Talking Comics. So here's a record that goes with that. This is lot number 1116. Talking Comics Lonesome Octopus, it says. And then this is the comic book that goes with it. So you get a record and a comic book combination. Very cool little thing. It's in respectable condition. I wouldn't say that it's brand new, but certainly better than most of the comic books you're going to run across out there. So nice to get that as a set. And the minimum bid on that is $25. Not very much at all. And that is, as a set, pretty tough to find. Okay, we have a couple of test pressing sections in this auction. One is shellac test pressings and one is vinyl. We're going to look at a couple of shellac things, just randomly selected. Here's an ARC test pressing. I believe that this is an unissued matrix. You can refer to this in your catalog. I don't have all that information here in front of me. Lot number 1137. All of the shellac tests that we're putting in this catalog are 11 inches. That doesn't mean that the records themselves when they were issued were 11 inches, but the tests are. So you've got a large runout area here that on an actual pressing would be trimmed down. And very often the reason for this is because they would inscribe information along the edge pertaining to the recording. Yeah, so all of these are 11-inch discs with 10-inch records. This is a Brunswick test. I think that is a no. I mean, it's kind of an obscure no, but it looks like somebody's remarks were no. We do not want to issue Fred Whitehouse's version of Palestina. At least not this particular one. I think that they did issue that with a different take. On the other hand, we have this one, which says OKeh, Sailor Man. This is another Brunswick recording. OKeh JCT, which stands for John Charles Thomas. So he would have okayed that particular selection himself. Here's one that's easier to see information down on the edge. You got that? Okay, $25 minimum bid on that. Here is a Victor recording of Eddie Duchin. Easy Come, Easy Go, Take 2. This was an unissued take. It was take 1 that was actually issued. This is a very desirable test right here. So this is an unreleased test pressing of a King Oliver Jeanette. It says race here underneath. In parentheses, that would go into their race series. There was a take that was issued, but not this one. This is a take, this is take 2. It was take 1 that was actually released. So if you're interested in an unreleased King Oliver test, you want to grab that one. That's got a $500 minimum bid. This was recorded by Sam Coslow. He was also the composer of this song, so it's kind of cool to see a Tin Pan Alley songwriter singing his own song on a test pressing. This was actually issued on Victor, recorded in 1933, lot number 1192 for $50. Here's a copy of Joan Crawford's record. She didn't do a whole lot of recording, so if you're interested in it, this is probably going to go pretty high. But this was released. This take and matrix were released on Victor in 1939, but it's nice to see the test pressing of it. This is Lieutenant Sutherland's 7th Regiment Band. I think that this is an unissued matrix, but you will find that in your catalog. This is a very interesting test in that it says, I think this is what it says. It's kind of scuffed up here, but I think it says Mrs. Thomas Edison Lake. This is Thomas Edison Lake. That would not have, she's not related to Thomas Edison. I did a little research on her to see what was going on with that. But apparently she was married to a man named Thomas Edison Lake. So this is her married name. And it's just a private recording. It has something to do with Lillian Lake and somebody's mother and so forth. Anyway, not a whole lot of interest there in terms of content, but just I thought it was interesting to see old Edison's name pop up on that. Here is a Zonophone test on an 11-inch blank of, I think, a 9-inch record, The Witch Behind the Moon from The Wizard of Oz. That was a show at the turn of the century by George Alexander. Nice looking record. Single-sided. Here you have the Zonophone notch that we've seen earlier. So that's just a handful of test pressings that I thought were kind of interesting for one reason or another. Let's move into a couple of soundtrack discs. This is a disc from a 1931 Fleischer cartoon, and we played this on the Bitter Request show. Here we have Billy Murray singing with the bouncing ball, "Marry Any Little Girl That's a Nice Little Girl." We didn't play the entire disc. We only played the singing part, which is the latter half. The first part, you'll hear some dialogue and a lot of sound effects, as one would expect in one of those cartoons. Here is our reels 2 and 4 on a single disc. We have here Maurice Chevalier and Jeanette MacDonald in the MGM feature Merry Widow from 1934. And we did feature a couple of songs from one of the sides of that disc. This is a very late, this is a 1934 film. By that time, most all theaters had converted over to sound on film, so to find a soundtrack disc this late is pretty unusual. And you'll note that it's a 12-inch disc instead of the normal 16. So here is a 16-inch soundtrack disc of a Vitaphone production. This is a very early release. It doesn't have the printed Vitaphone label, but it does have a Vitaphone sticker on it. Everything noted in crayon in the runout, especially the start indicator, but it's also noted in the runout area, and you can probably see that in there. Single-sided disc. So this would be a 15-minute short. We have, I think, 4 Vitaphone shorts in this particular catalog, as well as some discs for feature films. The nice thing about this one is that it includes the film that goes with it. This is the 35 millimeter film to accompany this particular record. So to be able to buy both items as a unit is something that hardly ever happens. So this is your opportunity. I believe that the minimum bid on that set is $500. Next section in the catalog is a section of movie promos. We'll start with lot number 1519. Again, these are just kind of pulled out at random just to kind of show you what they look like. These are often called exploitation records, and these would have been generally played over the radio or maybe in theater lobbies and so forth to promote a coming film. So here we have East Side of Heaven and Three Smart Girls Grown Up. I believe we played both sides of this record on the Bitter Request show one featuring Bing Crosby and the other featuring Deanna Durbin. Here we have a nice Abbott and Costello label, In the Navy, with the Andrews Sisters and Dick Powell. A lot of these Universal film promos have really colorful picture labels. This is an English film promo, Take Me Home, Play Me on Your Gramophone, parts 1 and 2. We played this as well. This is Columbia's first musical production, he says. Let's Fall in Love. Very nice disc. Here is a 20th Century Fox River of No Return lobby sound effects. And you will hear Marilyn Monroe singing from that picture. Here is the Universal Showboat Ballyhoo record. So they called them Ballyhoo records and they called them exploitation discs. Same thing, just a promo for the upcoming film. Interestingly, on this one, it's a calliope that's playing. There's no vocal, there's no orchestra. It's a calliope just playing these selections that Irving Kaufman is discussing here on the record. Here is a Jimmy Cagney record, Out of the Blue, sung by Evelyn Daw, from the movie of that name, from Something to Sing About, on a blue wax pressing. And in here, I'm not sure exactly where this came from, but it's a promotional record on the X label, which is a RCA Victor brand, X, with Paul Winchell and his dummy, Jerry Mahoney, singing You're So Much a Part of Me. We played that on the show. And then we have some radio transcriptions in this catalog, actually quite a few of them. We have a selection of Langworths. This is the very first one in the catalog. It's by Russ Morgan. Turns out that I bought a collection back in the summer of last year from a guy who was a personal friend of Russ Morgan's. And so he had a lot of Russ Morgan records, many of which actually came from Russ's own archive, and they are noted as such in the catalog. If it says in the comments for any particular listing from the Morgan collection or ex Morgan, then that means that it actually came out of Russ Morgan's own collection. And probably the coolest thing that we have in the radio transcription section is this series of Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys Tiffany radio transcriptions. There are 26 discs. Each disc encompasses 2 shows. So we have a total of 52 shows. That was everything that was released by Wills on the Tiffany label. So it's a complete set. These shows have no speaking. They are just individual musical tracks for the show, and then the speaking would be done by probably your local radio announcer, whatever station it was that picked up this series for broadcast. These were recorded around 1946 or so. We have a couple of albums here to show to you. This is the Music of the Orient set. It's got a few water stains on the front, but not too bad. But a very nice original album with the original album notes inside. And these are all Parlophone recordings, but they are all issued on the American Decca label. Here's just one of them. But a very nice set, pretty sought after. It's got a lot of very unusual Oriental and Asian music on it. Minimum bid on that is $250. And then we have a set of the Jelly Roll Morton set on Circle Records. This is a 12 album set with 45 total records. It's pretty scarce. They were limited editions. This one says it's set number 326. And this is a very nice condition set. All the records grade E- or better, except for maybe 3 or 4 sides that grade E-. But here you hear a lot of spoken word stuff by Jelly Roll, just talking about the old days and the music and the performers in New Orleans, and he does some playing and so forth as well. So really a very, very cool set that you will get a lot of enjoyment and information out of. I think that set is $200 or $300 minimum bid. All right, let's move on to our next section. All right, now we're going to move into the part of the highlight reels where we're just going to kind of zip through things. I know I said that before and we kind of didn't, but the stuff that I'm going to be showing you now is stuff that doesn't require a whole lot of explanation. So we'll just start with our foreign and ethnic section. Here is Josephine Baker with a comedian harmonist on a red label Columbia, lot number 1969. Here we have Sarah Bernhardt on a French G&T, lot number 1986 for a $100 minimum bid. And another comedian harmonist label, a French-only issue of this particular side, Perpetua Mobile, for $50 on lot number 1994. We did play this on the Bitter Request show. Great, great record. Another Sarah Bernhardt on Aeolian Vocalion for $100. And a Joseph Kainz G&T. Actually, this is not a G&T. Let me back up. This is a gramophone and typewriter label. It says Gramophone and Typewriter Company. This is what we call a pre-dog label. It says the Gramophone Company. They're otherwise identical, okay? But one says Gramophone and Typewriter. One says the Gramophone Company. So in the catalog, when you see it says G&T, then it's the one that says Gramophone and Typewriter. If it says pre-dog, then that would be the Gramophone Company. Both of them, however, feature the Recording Angel logo at the top. All right? So, good pair of records to just demonstrate that. So here is a Joseph Kainz record, normal issue in the German series for $75, a Hamlet monologue. And then here we have Der Totentanz by Goethe, and it does not have a catalog number. It has a little cross, which signifies that this is kind of a commemorative remembrance record. So this is, I don't see the minimum bid on this, probably, I would guess around $250. Okay, this is a Nazi-era recording of a couple of marches, $100 minimum bid. This is going into our operatic section. Here is a Columbia Grand Opera disc record. Similar label to some of those that we saw on the 7-inch records, but a special label specifically for the 10-inch opera series from around 1903 by Campagnari. Here we have a recording by Caruso from Iris, Serenata, $250 minimum bid. Jumping into some historical items here. Here's Sir Winston Churchill, The End of the War in Europe. This is his announcement on the day that, I guess the day just preceding the ceasefire with the Germans. This is not the end of the war in Japan. And he goes on to say that our job is not yet done. But a very cool recording that we played on the Bitter Request show. I wanted to play this on the show, but we just didn't have the time. This is His Imperial Majesty Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, the Shahina Shah of Iran in Bombay, 1956 recording, parts 1 and 2. This is actually spoken in English, so you will hear his voice and you will probably be able to understand it. All right, here we have the Pershing Nations Forum records. This is usually seen with a green and red label, very, very common. But to see it with this gold label is very, very rare. It says Tiffany & Company 18 karat gold. Well, I only wish it was. No, there is no gold on this record. This is just a special pressing to commemorate I think there were 5 of these actual gold records pressed. that went to various individuals. One individual who actually received one, surprisingly enough, was Enrico Caruso. I don't know how he pulled that off, but pretty cool. Anyway, it's the exact same thing that you see on the Pershing 10-inch Nations Forum record, but it's just got a special label on it. It's got a $100 minimum bid on that. Here we have a recording by Princess Elizabeth, later Queen Elizabeth. This is her very first recording. It's taken from a radio broadcast in 1940. She speaks to the children, and you will also hear Princess Margaret, her younger sister, on this disc as well. A really delightful recording, and we played that on the show. This is a Columbia Conditions label, Purple and Gold by Joseph Wanhope, and you may not even be able to see anything on that. That's really hard to read. But an early socialist recording. I don't know if it's actually Joseph Wanhope himself. The recording and label suggests that it is, but I make no guarantees on that. I do not know. Okay, so let's look at our 12-inch historical recordings. Of course, this isn't all of them, but these are some of the more interesting ones. This is a League of Nations speech by Newton Baker, Secretary of War, on a gold Nations Forum label for $100. Here we have Homer S. Cummins, also on a gold label, Nations Forum, for $100. These gold labels typically are going to be speeches that were not listed in the 12-inch normal Nations Forum series that goes from 1 to 26. So they are rarer, much more hard to find pressings. Here's a Madame Chiang Kai-shek speech, parts 1 and 3. Having gone to the 12-inch box, I found a couple of operatic and classical things that were oversized. Here's a Phonotypia of Salomea Kruzhenitsky, and here is one by Mr. Solacqua on Odeon with the original Odeon sleeve. Okay, and we have a Melba Victor label. And we have a couple of piano items. Here's Eugene Dalbert on American Odeon. It's got a, looks like a, can't tell whether it's a $100 or a $400 minimum bid. You have a much better chance of winning if you bid $400 though. And then this is Mr. Leon Cartoon on an Odeon with a $50 minimum bid. Okay, so that takes care of historical and operatic and classical items. Let's now go back to 10-inch to our autographs. Here is Best Wishes from Gus Arnheim. A little bit of wear on that record, and a little bit of wear on the inscription also, but Mark rates that as a 4 out of 10 on the inscription. Here is a bullet recording of Francis Craig, Near You. This is one of the most common 78s ever made, but very uncommon signed. It's the only autographed copy I've run across, lot number 3609. Here is Tommy Dorsey. We'll pull this out of the plastic sleeve so you can get a good view of that. Really nice Tommy Dorsey autograph on a Victor circular label, $50 minimum bid. Mark rated that as a 7 out of 10. I think I may have gone a little higher on that, but we try and do it conservatively. Here is a Duke Ellington autograph, which he rated as a 6 out of 10, which would mean roughly 60% of the signature is present. So pretty nice. You don't see Duke Ellington signatures on records very often. This may have been the first one I've had. I've had him on a record envelope record sleeve, but I don't think I had him on a record label. Here's a Maurice Gunsky, lot number 3612. Pretty nice. A Henry Halstead on Victor, 3613. And a nice Isham Jones autograph on a label that has been pasted on top of that Brunswick. A Frankie Lane to Joan, best wishes, it looks like it says, on the Atlas label, lot number 3615. I think that this is our last autograph to show you. This is a really nice, Sincerely Leo Reisman on the flag label Columbia. Okay, let's go into start pulling from the crates. Start with Personality Records. $250 minimum bid on Baby Rose Marie, one of her 2 Victor Scroll recordings, both of which are absolutely off the charts. 11s on a scale of 1 to 10. Here is a Charlie Chaplin directed recording from 1957. He is directing 2 selections that he composed for A King in New York. Maurice Chevalier on a 22,000 series Victor Scroll, 2 French language recordings, very unusual, which is why it didn't sell. Only 765 copies were reported as having been sold of this particular record. So quite a rare Chevalier record if you are a collector of such things. I believe we played that. We played one of the Chaplin things, and we played one of the Baby Rose Marie sides. So we're getting into stuff that we're featuring in the Bitter Request show. We played this record, the Dunham Jazz Singers, Honey Turn Your Damper Down on Electra Beam Jeanette, lot number 3755. We did not play this Helen Kane record, but it's a scarce issue of hers. It's got a label scratch, $50 minimum bid. Davy Lee, he was the kid that appeared in The Jazz Singer with Al Jolson when he was just a child, and this is his Brunswick rendition of I've Lost My Dog. That's a pretty scarce record. Sonny Lee's Bear Story Brunswick turns up much more often than this one does. This is a scarce merit label out of Kansas City by Reverend J.C. Burnett with a $50 minimum bid. Washington Phillips playing the Dulciola, lot number 4015. We played this on the Bitter Request show. That's got, looks like a $300 minimum bid. Nice copy of that. We played this record, Cocaine by Dick Justice. Not a terribly nice looking label, but a V++ recording with a $100 opener. Nice ARC Mellatone, E-, condition, $100 minimum. And Lemuel Turner, Jake Bottle Blues on a Victor Scroll, lot number 4280. Big Gorilla Man by Gladys Bentley on an OKeh. $300 minimum bid for lot number 4348 by Cow Davenport and Sam Theard. We actually played this on the show. Walter Davis, Blue Ghost Blues, $150 minimum. Lightnin' Hopkins on Gold Star, Unsuccessful Blues. Nice E condition copy with a little label scratch. Here's a pretty clean condition Blind Lemon Jefferson. You don't generally find his records looking like that. That grades E-, on this side, V++ on that side. But yeah, that record has a 75 minimum, but it's not going to go anywhere close to that amount, I can guarantee you. There's a Josie Miles Jeanette with Fletcher Henderson on piano, lot number 4395. And a Whistling Alex Moore, West Texas Woman, lot number 4402, $200 minimum. Champion label Ruby Rankin, which is actually Ivy Smith, lot number 4408, $75. And Bessie Smith, nice E+ copy. Wow. $100 minimum bid for that Columbia Viva Tonal. It's got a 1-inch hair crack, but just an exceptionally nice clean copy. Here's 14464, E-, for $50 by Bessie Smith. And Tampa Red's Hokum Jug Band, $50 minimum bid on Vocalion. Tampa Red on a gold label Vocalion for 100. We saw Romeo earlier in the video series. Here we have Hit Me in the Nose Blues by Ozzy Ware for $50. Lot number 4462. Weary Blues by Louis Armstrong on a small label maroon OKeh for 100. And a black label OKeh by Louis for 50. Here is The Squirrel by Tad Dameron's Sextet on Blue Note for $50. Moving into lot 4773, $100 minimum bid on Dapper Dan's Hot Aces, Alabama Stomp. We played that on the show. We did not play Blowing the Blues Away by Twin Cities Dance Orchestra, but we certainly could have. That would have been a very nice selection as well. Duke Ellington, Columbia Vivatone, $100. Nice E-condition copy on that. Black Beauty by Ellington. Victor Scroll for 50. Vocalion 1086, New Orleans Lowdown for 250. I think we played that. I don't know if we played this one or not. I don't think we did. Nice Jeanette Electrobeam. We have a number of very nice Electrobeams in this current auction. Handy's Memphis Jazz Band, or Blues Band, I'm sorry, doing the St. Louis Blues. Minimum bid of $50. We played this. And the Harlem Foot Warmers, $50 minimum bid on OKeh. Followed by Richard Jones Jazz Wizards Kin to Cant Blues, $150 minimum on that. Lot 5129, Joe Jordan's 10 Sharps and Flats Senegalese Stomp for 100, and a blue wax copy of Ted Lewis doing Try a Little Tenderness. You will hear that on the Bitter Request show. Memphis Stompers, the Goofer Feathers Blues, $50 minimum bid on that E minus Victor Scroll. Jelly Roll Morton, the Pearls, piano solo, $50. And Jelly Roll Morton, Little Lawrence, $75 for this scroll. OKeh 8277, Benny Moten's Kansas City Orchestra, $75 opener on that. $100 for New Orleans Owls on this Columbia. 5453 is the original New Orleans Rhythm Kings. Their OKs are a whole lot harder to find than their Victor Batwings. I can guarantee you that. That is a $75 minimum bid. Okay, here we have Tampa Red's Hokum Jug Band on Vocalion for $50. Followed by the Texas Blues Destroyers for $75 on Vocalion. Now we're going into the Fat Wallers. Got a number of those. Here we have Valentine Stomp for 100, lot number 5766. And here's a Fess Williams Victor for $50, lot number 5824. Okay, we are going to start into the gem quality section as soon as I reset these crates. All right, now we're going to go into the gem quality section. Every catalog has one of these, and it is typically several hundred records in really, really exceptional shape, much nicer than you would typically expect to find. In some cases, actually, probably new, old, unplayed dealer stock. So the lowest grade possible in the gem quality section is E-, but there aren't going to be a whole lot of those. You're going to have a lot of E's, a lot of E+, and even a few M-. M- is a grade that we don't give out a whole lot because it really has to look like it was made this morning to rate that particular grade. We don't use M at all in our grading system. All right, so we're going to start here with lot number 5859, a Bluebird by Masters Hawaiians. Here we have Reverend McGee, Babylon is Falling Down, $250 minimum bid. This does say M-. Let's just take a look and see what an M- record looks like. So basically, there's nothing wrong with it. The grooves are perfect, no evidence of having been played. Label is perfect as well. No way to prove that it has or hasn't been played, but it looks perfect. The KXYZ Novelty Band Bluebird, $75 minimum bid, and here is Amos, $450. That's lot number 5864. Boots and His Buddies, $50, $58.79. Brunswick recording by Bud Jackson's Swanee Serenaders, Messing Around. We played that on the show. That's a $100 minimum bid. Tiger Rag by the Jungle Band, $50 for $59.03. All of our gym quality stuff is sorted by label and number. So the artists are going to be totally mixed. $59.08 for another Jungle Band recording. Jimmy Johnson on $59.09 for $50. $250 for Strut Miss Lizzie, Irving Mills and his Hotsy Totsy Gang with Bix in the Mix. Dick Robertson vocal on that. We played that on the show. Great record. Ethel Waters, Stormy Weather, $59.18 on Brunswick, $50 minimum. Here is Teddy Wilson with Billie Holiday on the vocal, $59.31 for $50 minimum. $59.32, another Billie Holiday, $50 on the minimum. Henderson's Roseland Orchestra, Freeze and Melt, $150 for the cameo, lot number 5938. Here's a 40,000 series champion, Carmichael, that would be Hoagie Carmichael's Collegians Walking the Dog, or Walking the Dog, $100 minimum bid, $59.39. Another champion, State Street Ramblers, Richmond Stomp. Richmond, of course, is where Jeanette was located, Jeanette Press Champions. This is a $100 minimum bid, lot $59.40. We played that recording in the Bid Request show. Very good record. Harry Reeser's Syncopators. We played this one. I'm just wild about horns on automobiles that go ta-ta-ta-ta. $100 minimum bid, lot number 5965. Lee Morse for $50, E+ copy of this particular record in the hush of the night. Here's Percy Granger, Ramble on Love, parts 1 and 2. We played that in the Bid Request show. We played a lot of recordings by composers who were playing their own selections on piano. So this was one of them, a Percy Granger thing. You'll find a number of others, Hoagie Carmichael and Jolly Roll Morton and several. Here we have Bing Crosby, very early recording of his, $50 minimum bid. Records in E condition, lot number 5981. 2087 is a 7-gallon jug band. $300 minimum bid on that one. $50 for Ruth Etting. Nice E+ copy of When We're Alone. Ruth Etting records are not rare, but they are rare in E+ condition. Here's Fletcher Henderson with vocal and trumpet by Henry Allen. $50 recording. Minimum bid on that recording. Blue Wax. Here's Faraday Groffet and his orchestra. Faraday Groffet, composer of Grand Canyon Suite, collaborator with Paul Whiteman. This is lot number 6004 with a $75 minimum bid. Frankie Trumbauer on lot number 6005 for $50. Here's 6007, another Ruth Etting record, Blue Wax. And Benny Goodman, Columbia. This is what we call the Columbia V2 label, the second vivatonal style with the Columbia in all cap block letters. $75 minimum bid on that. Vic Burton, Columbia, $75 minimum. E+, Bessie Smith, E for $100. Johnson's Jazzers, Skittledy Scow, $200 minimum bid for lot number 6014. Clara Smith, Nice E-condition record for $250. Jelly, look what you done. 6018, the Charleston contest by Too Tight Henry. We featured the Charleston recordings related to the Charleston in our Bitter Request show. Played quite a number of those. But not that record because it had already been played in a previous show. Here we have Darby and Tarleton, $150 minimum bid for an IC Plus copy of this record. The Leake County Revelers, $50 minimum bid for that one. And Prohibition, yes or no. Clayton McMission, Riley Puckett, Low Stokes, Burt Lane, and Tom Dorsey. That's not Tommy Dorsey, by the way. This is a $100 minimum bid for lot number 6030. P. Wheat Straw, Decca Sunburst, $200 minimum bid for 6057. 7132 by Alice Moore. Lot number 6058, $75 on that. And Red Nelson 7000 series Decca for $50, lot number 6059. Then we have lot number 6066. This is Viola McCoy on a nice Jeanette with a dealer sticker at 12 o'clock. Raquel mentioned to me that I was saying 9 o'clock earlier when it was actually 3 o'clock from her perspective. I was a bad, bad boy. Minimum bid 75 on lot number 6066. Lot number 6067 for $50. Dixie Stompers. Here's a Melatonin by Bessie Jackson, $100 minimum bid. This is a record we played on the show, The Rocks by Clay Custer, aka George W. Thomas. Most authorities feel that Clay Custer is a pseudonym for Mr. Thomas, and this would be considered by many to be the very first Boogie Woogie record, dating from 1923, February of that year. That was one of those composer-played recordings that we did in the Bitter Request show. Here's Lizzie Miles, Wicked Blues on OKeh, $50 minimum bid. Sarah Martin, $50 minimum bid for that E-condition OKeh. Sarah Martin for an E-condition OKeh there. You know, when we put a $50 minimum bid for an E-condition blues recording like this from the early 1920s, it's not going to sell for $50. I mean, you're welcome to bid for $50 because maybe, you know, sometimes it happens, but very seldom. These are low minimum bids for high-grade records. High-grade records are very, very hard to find. Even if it's a common record on some artists and some labels, it can be very hard to find. So there's generally a pretty substantial premium to be paid for records in that condition if they are truly rare. All right, and here we have a W.C. Handy playing St. Louis Blues again, but 20 years after the one that we looked at on Black Swan. This is the varsity issue of that. We played both of these during the Bitter Request show back to back just to compare them. Now that's going to end this particular highlight reel. We're going to come back with our final one, which will be the back end of the gem quality section starting at Victor, and then we'll get into diamond discs and cylinders. I just want to mention that I haven't shown you any of the really high dollar stuff in this series because we keep that in a separate location in the building. So what we're going to do is when we begin the next highlight reel, we'll pull those out, and once I finish the remainder of the gem quality stuff, then we'll go into the really, really high dollar things before we get into the diamond disc and cylinders. So we'll see you then.